listeners, and welcome to a brand new program right here on WCHE, where we examine the birth charts of celebrities, sports figures, and politicians to find out what really makes them tick. I'm Donna Saul with Astrologer Francis Dunnery, and you're listening to Behind the Curtain. Many of you know Francis Dunnery as a chart-topping musician who's toured with some of the biggest names in music. He's a music producer. He's fronted his own band. He's toured the world, writing songs, playing music, and performing in front of hundreds of thousands of people. But what you might not know is the power of his astrology readings. He's been studying astrology for more than 35 years, and his expertise has been deeply influenced by top psychologists and philosophers, uniquely integrating these and mythological perspectives along with the wisdom of Eastern philosophies. I feel like you yesterday, Eric. And he's here to talk about a whole lot of things today. We're going to be talking about the sky that we're living under, as well as probably one of the most polarizing figures that I could guess to say the world has known, Donald Trump. So if you're listening, stay tuned. We're going to be unveiling all of those secrets. So, Francis, where do you want to start? You want to start with the energies?
Well, first I want to start with how great you introduced that show.
Thank you. You know, I worked on that. I'll get better next week if you come back. If you promise me to come back, I'll get better.
You should have put at the end, but he can't fix your car.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I've got a lot to live up to. Well, I mean, astrology, it's a very weird subject for a lot of people. Some people love it, some people can't stand it. My musical audience, they kind of go off on me when I start to talk about it, so I don't give them too much information that way. Otherwise, they're like, "What are you talking about, you idiot?" and stuff. But it's a fascinating subject. Like when you get into it, Liz Green said the best thing. Liz Green, who's like the Elvis of astrology, right? She's it. Like Liz Green is the most intelligent woman I've ever dealt with, and she said, if you read horoscope magazines, and like look at that little horoscope section in the magazine and think you know about astrology, it's like listening to the Spice Girls and saying you know about music. You know what I mean? Like the concept itself is crazy. It's kind of like when you talk about UFOs and things like that, or alien abductions. There's the initial story, right? Mm-hmm. But then when you get into alien abductions and you find out that a massive percentage of those people have been abducted, but also parts of sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. The thing starts to open up into these other caverns of information, and astrology is like that. I understand why people think it's a load of nonsense sometimes, because I was one of them. That's how I got into it.
Yeah, well, I think people think it's nonsense because, we all grew up with it being in the newspaper. Here you are for Scorpio, here you are for Taurus, and some generic kind of explanation that nobody believed anyway. And then some people sit with other astrologers who aren't you, and, they find out, okay, this is going to happen on this day and that day. And I think that there's some value in that. But when you told me that your readings were life-changing, I laughed. But I'm not laughing anymore. I mean, you got in my head for like 3 days after. I had a hard time shaking it because you nailed so many things that were so incredibly accurate that, this is totally inappropriate, but unless you're sleeping with me, you probably don't know, right? So it was a very interesting exercise of looking at what I do and how I do it. And everybody I know who has come through your reading has said pretty much the same thing. You take it to a whole different kind of a level. I mean, when you talked about the psychology of where the moon sits in your chart, I would guess that maybe one other astrologer in the world is talking about things like that, the way you're talking about them, and I'm probably stretching it at that. I would say you're the only person. So I think astrology, I went from astrology to, whoa, astrology.
No, that's what I did. Because when I first got into it, I tried to prove my friend wrong. That's what happened. I said, because I was like, what are you talking about astrology? Shut up. And then I went to this, it was actually in Regent's Park College in London. And I go in there, and Liz Green was in there, and she was doing these seminars on, I think it was the moon, actually. And Donna, I got to tell you, man, I couldn't believe that somebody could pull that sort of information, because it isn't like what you think. It's not like, hey, who will meet a tall, dark stranger, It's crazy stuff like, well, you saw your father as a weak individual. You saw it was your mother that dominated the household, and your father, like all that stuff. And I'm like, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And it was crazy. And you got into it was almost like somebody reading my DNA, psychological DNA. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's the way I felt. Yeah. Yeah, it was a little scary, Francis. And even what you tell me ongoing about, what's happening. You told me about Mercury going retrograde the 3rd to the 23rd of November. Don't start anything then, because it will always have that taint of the retrograde. And then yesterday, about 6 planets being in retrograde as we speak, which is explaining the funk of most of the world right now and this weird, odd feeling we all have.
I think that's a good thing to tell everybody right now, because people think it's because of the politics that they can't get right with themselves. What happens is, if you get a planet like Mercury goes retrograde, and people, there's a lot of people used to it, like people kind of talk about it. They're kind of like, oh yeah, Mercury's retrograde. It isn't as kind of taboo as most people think. And so what tends to happen with Mercury in retrograde is, because it affects the mind, it's almost like living life through the mirror. You're looking at everything now back to front, and so you start making decisions based on life in the mirror. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so when it actually goes direct, you realize you've made the wrong decision. And so your mind gets like that, so things break down. It's like, it's known for computers crashes or like accidents or plane crashes, like all this. Once you start paying attention to it, you see it.
Yeah.
And of course, the scientists would say it's confirmation bias, but I've been through that myself. There's definitely something going on when Mercury goes retrograde. However, if Mercury retrograde is a high-pitched noise, like woo, when the outer planets go retrograde, it's like woo, and it's almost like somebody sending some deep vibration through your system, and you can't get right. You just feel off. Mm-hmm. You just feel off. It's like and you don't know what it is, and you start thinking it's the world or what's happening in the world. And so up until actually on the day that Donald Trump signed that peace deal with the Arabs and the Israel and Gaza thing, that was the day that Pluto went direct. So that was the first one. So that now will start to go forward now. But right now, as we speak, we've got Neptune's in retrograde. Uranus is about to go retrograde. Like Saturn's in retrograde. There's all these there's about 5 planets now. Let me have a look. Actually, I won't waste time. But there's about 5 planets in retrograde, and that's why everybody's feeling weird. It's a weird feeling. It almost feels like what women have told me what PMS feels like or something. There's just something you just can't get right with yourself. Right. That's going to start rolling out now between now and March. And so by March, one of the big ones actually in December, Saturn's going to go direct, and I can't wait for that, because I can feel this stuff. I can actually feel it, and it's that deep that you can't. You're just off.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it.
Is there anything people can do to get around it? I mean, or
no,
is this
just be aware of it?
Just aware, yeah. Awareness is the first step, right?
When you can name something, right? When you can name something psychologically, it's a great help. When people go through all like astrology does is take the terror out of life. There's a weird deep terror that we all have in life. We're all fear driven. And when you can name something and say, there it's there, that's what that is, then it takes all the fear out of it. So now, I still feel I can't get right with myself, but I know that by March, through my 35 years of monitoring this stuff, I know it's going to go. So I don't have to think like this is my life. Do you understand what I mean? Because if I didn't have that knowledge, I would think, this is my life. It sucks.
Yeah, and you know what, too? I think, like you said, people start making the wrong decisions. Like, you're feeling all of this now, and you think something is wrong with you, and you go to the doctor, and you say, I just can't get right, and they want to push an antidepressant on you. And I'm going to an extreme, but now you're on antidepressants when, realistically, all you have to do is dig in and wait it out, right? And understand that it's happening.
I agree. I'm not a big fan of antidepressants, because oftentimes, when you get it like Liz Green would always say, who you depressed at? She always said it was like inverted anger, so it was like somebody you'd be angry at. And there's other types of depression, sure, which are really way heavy. But like the general thing when people say I'm like a bit depressed, and what happens is that it lasts about 2 years. It often correlates with a Saturnian saying, I've seen it all the time. Like, somebody's like, I'm depressed and I'm not feeling too good. Well, first of all, you're supposed to go through that stuff. That's why we have it. Like, and if you don't go through it, you haven't built the resilience up to it the next time it goes through. So just flatlining yourself is not often a good idea.
Yeah.
But, I understand it doesn't feel good, and I understand it it's like a psychological winter time when you're not really in full bloom, so to speak. But, there's good things from a depression, believe it or not.
I do believe that. I think
really, you learn stuff that you wouldn't naturally get into,
Yeah, yeah. And it can be, melancholy can give way, I don't know how to say it, I guess give way to creativity, right? When you're in those down times and you know that it's the planets and you're waiting it out or whatever it happens to be for you in that moment, that's the time to go inside and look at what are you doing? How are you doing it? I think my point was that people will just try to cover over something thinking that there's something wrong with them. And the only thing wrong with them is that they're getting battered by Saturn or Uranus or whatever it is. And I think that if people can just sit out some time like this time now and we can get through to March, hopefully we're a happier crowd, right?
Well, I think it'll start releasing itself, but I think in terms of depression, I think if you just accept what is, like it's futile to accept, like if you say like, I refuse, it's dark outside and I refuse to accept it, it's insane because it is dark outside. Like there's things that are, and most of the pain comes from your resistance to what is. That's what all the pain is.
Yeah.
Like when I talk to people about their charts, I can see where they're going to resist. I can see it. I can actually see the patterns on the charts. I can like, oh, right. I see it. And so by resisting that, first of all, you can't integrate it. You can't do anything with it. It just sits there and festers. And the other thing is it just causes an ongoing fear. Like it like nothing moves. Mm-hmm. But once you accept it and you go like, it's like when my brother died or something like that, I can do my grieving thing. And then at some point you have to go, okay, well, my brother's dead. Mm-hmm. There's an acceptance of where it's ludicrous not to accept it because to, think he's going to come back that's not going to happen. Like, right. And so acceptance really is everything. Acceptance of yourself solves probably 99% of the world's problems.
But I think that's the difference between your astrology readings and other people's astrology readings, because you can see in the chart these things that have a deeper meaning and in some respects are more productive to moving forward a life than other astrologers look at a chart to see. Did that all come out just right? Okay.
It's definitely an advantage being an astrologer over a regular therapist or counselor because I don't really counsel people. What I do is I educate people on their own process. Yeah. I would more like, whereas the therapist, it's mostly about listening. They're great listeners, you know what I mean? Like, and the counselors and the listeners, and they're fantastic for that. So sometimes people have things to express and regular therapy and counseling is over a long period of time. As an astrologer, you get like 45 minutes with somebody and you've got to change their life. Yeah, and right. So I look at their chart and go like, right, this is what this person would be most beneficial to know.
Yeah. We're going to take a break, Francis. Okay. We've got to hear from our sponsors. This is Donna Saul. I'm with Francis Dunnery, astrologer Francis Dunnery, and you're listening to Behind the Curtain. We're going to be right back. Hey listeners, welcome back. I am Donna Saul. I am with astrologer Francis Dunnery. You may know him from his music, but there is a whole other side to this man, and he's an extremely gifted, extremely powerful astrologer. And we're here talking, this is a new show, Behind the Curtain, and we're talking about celebrities, sports figures, politicians to find out what really makes them tick. When I went and did a survey of who did you want to do first, Donald Trump came up before anybody else. So, Francis, tell us about Donald Trump.
The Donald.
Look at you laughing.
He's quite a misunderstood character, and he's also, what's obvious about him is his Leo rising. He's got Leo rising, Mars on his ascendant in Leo, and Pluto in Leo on his ascendant. So that's what you're going to see. The ascendant's like your front door. So you see a kind of self-grandizing kind of, I'm the greatest. You see that, right? And and I know we don't have much time, so I can't really go into this much. So you see, that's what everybody sees, and that's what like makes people go like, that's true, he does all that, and they go crazy at him, right? But his moon is in Sagittarius, so he's an optimist, this guy. So in order for him to feel good about the world and the world he lives in, his moon being in Sagittarius means he can't stand disappointment. He just can't handle it. So he's going to try and make everything better, and he's going to talk it better. So a natural Sagittarius, no matter what happens, if their house burns down, they'll say, yes, but it was supposed to happen for a reason. They say things like because they can't deal with the disappointment of it. So he can't deal with the disappointment of like not nice things. He actually wants everybody to have a good laugh. Probably if you hung out with him, it'd be a really good laugh, and he wouldn't be what you think he is. Like he'd probably one of them where you'd want to hang out with him. Like he's not somebody you would, like if he was like your uncle or something, like you'd want to go and hang out with him. Like he's not, but what people see of him is that braggadocious front door. That's what they don't like. He's also very creative, and he's naturally going to pull all the attention with that Leo rising. Any Leos, they're born in the middle of the summertime, and they carry that energy about them when the flowers are in full bloom, and they feel like that inside. They've got this special destiny. He feels like that. He's got a special destiny to fulfill. But here's where behind the curtain, also he's a Gemini as well, and he's got Uranus in Gemini, so it means he's got two middle fingers up, and he has the ability to handle 8,654 million things a minute. Because the Geminis are born at the time of year when the bees are pollinating the flowers, and so he can do that. So that's why people can't keep up with him. He's just bang, bang, bang. He's just faster and sharper than anybody else. And because he's got the Uranus there, he's got the two middle fingers up. He's actually a very important figure in history, this guy. People don't realize that yet, but he will be. Like, he's a really important figure in history, but he's behind the curtain. So he's got Mercury in Cancer, which means his mind is fixed on security all the time. So he's obsessed with his own security, and he have his own family as well. And the two planets that really show behind the curtain that he would never let you see, he has a deep fear of abandonment. He has Saturn in Cancer in the 11th house, a conjunct Venus, which means that, first of all, he's always afraid that they're going to leave, and so he leaves them before they can leave him. That's behind the curtain. That's what you don't see. He's extremely sensitive to being left out, or like when if people were to leave him out, or people he just can't bear this if somebody were to leave him. And so that's why the only people who really get into his circle are his family, because they can't leave him. But you'll notice how everything, and so he demands loyalty from people, yet he doesn't have much himself. He will bolt. As soon as he thinks you're going to leave him, he'll bolt. Now, one of the things that happened that was fascinating is because when he was with Elon Musk, that was a great relationship they had. Them two were connected at the hip. And I think they'll get back together again, because Elon has Venus in Cancer, Venus in Gemini, and which sits on Trump's sun. So Trump loved him. I've never seen Trump love anybody like that at all. And Trump has Venus in Cancer, and Elon's a Cancer, so they had that Venus-y thing going on. You remember when Elon said, he said, I love him as much as another man can love another man, or something like that. Like, that's the Venus stuff, like when the Venus stuff comes in. And so and then Elon abandoned him and that's Trump's story, and that's behind the curtain, see, with Donald Trump. They all leave eventually, or he leaves them. Now, one of the things I want you to notice, he has the ability to go off on people and say really nasty stuff about them, and then he can just be friends with them the next minute. That's the moon in Sag. He won't harbour a grudge. He's got no grudges. He'll just, he'll say something like, you got somebody like, what to call the guy, what to call the Secretary of State now? What's his name? I can't remember.
I'm blanking too. I don't know. I'm so engrossed in what you're saying.
Well,
I'm blanking.
He would be in. They had them debates going on, and he said the horriblest stuff about them. Really mean stuff, right? Marco Rubio. That's who I'm saying.
Right, you, Eric. Saving us both right here.
So old Marco got it like real bad, and Marco tried to go back at him, but he's just not an expert like Trump. Trump's just like, he's got that Leo, right? He just sucks all the air out of the room. If you go in the room with him, you're not going to get attention. He'll get it. He's so on fire in terms of his summer energy. Like he's like the sun, and we're like all the planets going around him. He just can't help it. That's what he is. But here's the thing you've got to understand about him. He's being honest. He's being more honest than anybody, because that's his nature. You know what I mean? Like we have these social ways of like, well, we shouldn't do this and we shouldn't do that, but he's actually being honest. Like even when he abandons people, he's being honest to what his shadow is, because that's really his shadow. Saturn in Cancer in the shadow. He's got also what they call the lone wolf syndrome. He never fits in. He never feels like he fits in. He's never a part of the crowd because he's afraid of his own ordinariness. He doesn't like to be ordinary. So he does things to leave himself out. So he's always just him and the rest of the world. If you notice, even when he goes to these like conventions and all that with all the world leaders, he always stands out. He's never like part of NATO, or he's always looking to get out. See, but he's honest. That's him being honest. Like he's not lying. People, and also his braggart stuff, and he's over emphasizing things. That's him being honest. That's what the moon in Sag does. Wow. It will blow something up, like rather than be like, oh, well, this is really messed up. He'll go, no, it isn't. It's going to be great. We're going to have the biggest thing you'll ever have. And it's all that. Anybody with the moon in Sag does that.
And that is so explains him to a T. I mean, when you look at it, I was like, why do people dislike this man so much? I mean, he doesn't have the greatest traits, but when you combine everything that you've just said, that really fits him to a T. And he can't help but be who he is astrologically, right? He can't help where he was born.
That's him being honest. That's him being really honest.
Yeah, fascinating.
I mean, and I can't really do his chat in 10 minutes, but I'm trying to.
We'll do better next week. We'll do better next week. This is our first time out, so we're gonna have to end it. I know time flies when you're having a good time, but next week we'll work on it.
Next week I'm going to fix your car.
Yeah, next week you're going to fix my car. Yeah. So listeners, who do you want to hear from next? Let us know. Drop some comments. Hit us up, or we'll just pick somebody and go forward. Thank you, Francis. I appreciate it. You can find Francis at francisdunneryastro.com. You can also check out the Moonstone and Sage website for Francis in-person readings. Anything else you want to say to wrap it up, Francis?
No, I think you did a great job, Donna, to be honest.
Thank you, Francis. All right, we'll talk next week then. I think you're quite outspoken for a Scorpio. Okay. Thank you, I think. This is Behind the Curtain. Podcast will be up after the show. Francis Dunnery, thank you so much. I'm Donna Saul. WCHE 95.3 FM. See you next week.